Hello, this is Jay Denson, and welcome to another episode of Fit Health Well. I'm very happy to bring this next guest that we have on our program here. And as you guys know, and as you've been listening to our podcast, we embody everything having to do with health and wellness. And in terms of wellness, mental wellness is something that's near and dear to my heart. And the public speaking realm caters to that. Because a lot of times too, there's a lot of titles associated with this practice, right? Life coaches and public speakers and keynote addressers, and it's important because I myself I've listened to them, and in the world of the Tony Robbins and E.T. Eric Thomas, the David Goggins, it's refreshing when you see a woman right up there in the top of her game, and the Black woman especially. Of that. And I'm going to give you a little background from my perspective. I had a platform and I had a blog site, a couple years back, and she was modeling at the time. And, I had her on and I interviewed her, and, I discussed her journey and I profiled her on our platform. And, she has an amazing spirit. And I even knew back then she was driven. There was a fire in her that I knew. And I said, you know what, I'm going to keep in contact with this sister. And, since then, she has evolved. And when I say evolved, I'm talking about she has just matured into this phenomenal Black woman and this phenomenal public speaker. And I'm going to run down some of her accomplishments with you today. She is an international award-winning public speaker. In 2018, she became the Toastmaster International World Champion of Public Speaking. Not only that, but she's only the second Black female to win and the fifth woman to win this honor since 1938, okay? She's given keynote addresses in Dubai, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Sri Lanka, India. I mean, the girl's been everywhere. That's just a few places she's been. Not only that, but on top of that, she's an author, she's a blogger, she's a mother, and lastly, a phenomenal woman. I want to introduce to our program today, Ramona J. Smith. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. It's so good to see you and to converse with you. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Did I get everything or leave anything out? Or how did I do with that?
That was amazing. I love it.
Awesome, definitely. So like we said, it was really good to reconnect with you again
Yeah.
because, I'm a big advocate of keeping people in your circle who just helps motivate you and keep you moving. And, you were one of the people that I've seen just grow, and not only just grow, but just evolve on an international level. And, I know about, some of your struggles, at the time, just being a mom and dealing with your son's, issues and things like that. And we're going to get into that a little bit. But for anyone who doesn't know you, because I know you personally, let's talk about your journey prior to public speaking, and give them a little bit of history and background about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I also want to mention, in case I have some technical difficulties, my cell phone is on standby, so I'm waiting in the wind with my phone.
Okay.
But public speaking has always been something that I knew that I had a passion for at an early age. I was 19 when I figured out, like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. However, when you grow up in an impoverished area, when you grow up around poverty, you grow up around people who are just in survival mode, just trying to make it day by day, you don't really get to see those kind of careers. Or if you do see a public speaker, it just seems so far-fetched. Our parents were cooks and factory workers and maybe STNAs at best in my neighborhood, and those were considered decent, great jobs. We didn't have a lot of entrepreneurs that were legal. And so we didn't really have a point of reference to look up to things like that. And so once I figured out, like, oh my God, I want to be a public speaker for a living, it was like, really? Like, how is that a thing? And so I ran from it for a long time. I ran from that calling for many years, but it continued to chase me down. No matter how far I tried to run from it, no matter how many times I tried to turn my back on it and say, no, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm going to do that. Even recently in 2018, before the championship, I became a teacher. And I'm like, no, I'm going to teach for 5 years and then I'm going to focus on my dream. And then August happened. August of 2018, my whole life changed. So I grew up in this impoverished area in the worst parts of Cleveland, Ohio. I was always a great student, but I didn't really have a lot of direction. And in my world championship speech, Still Standing, which is on YouTube, you can go ahead and watch that. We need 1 million views. But I I never really had any direction. I never really had much guidance, and I dropped out of college 4 times. After I finished high school, I dropped out of college 4 times, and people say, "How do you drop out of college 4 times?" Like, well, when you're poor, they give you a lot of financial aid, so that's the first thing. But I just didn't know what the point of college was. I knew that I should go because other people were going. My older sister went, but when I got there, I was just like, "Why am I here?" I didn't have an end goal, and so I did that 3 or 4 times, and I just ended up working in retail, which I always had a love for retail, but you can't get rich working as a cashier at CVS.
I know that's right.
Even at Whole Foods, when I was making, back in the day when $10 was a lot of money, but, as a cashier, I'm making $10, $11 an hour. You still cannot get rich doing that, or you can't create a stable legacy for your children with that. But that's before I had children. So I bounced around doing retail, whatever. Ended up moving to Los Angeles to pursue that modeling career. But me being so naive and just wanting to be this big star immediately without having to put any work in, I didn't do any research. I sold all my things, bought a one-way ticket to LA. And when I got there, I realized that, this is the hub for actors and models. Everybody's an actress, everybody's a model. And I kind of shifted my focus there. And that's really when everything started coming full circle with the public speaking. I started doing a lot of poetry because I'm a poet as well, doing a lot of poetry venues. And then the opportunities with poetry turned into opportunities for speaking. And then my sister said, well, okay, you want to be this great speaker, that's great, but you have no skills. You need to go join this organization called Toastmasters. And that's when I joined Toastmasters in 2010. So to sum it up, from Cleveland, Ohio, grew up a little bit rough, didn't have much direction or guidance, lived a little bit of life, figured out what I wanted to do with my life, tried to run from it. It kept chasing me around, moved to LA, figured out what I wanted to do. It all came together. And then once I became a mom, I just became a superwoman.
There you go. And like, I love what you did. First off, that was a really great recap. And what I mean by that as well too is again, I introduce you with all of these overwhelming accomplishments. But I think what we tend to do, and people who make it, quote unquote, right? They don't see the grind. They don't see the failures, right? This is what I took to with what you just said. I dropped out of school 4 times. I had to take a job at CVS, right? Like, these are the things that people don't see. And whether it's yourself or myself, and, I have a platform, and this platform grows as well too. I was a high school not a high school dropout. I was, I went out of college and I went back as well, and things like that. So, what people, I think, they don't see enough of is they don't see the failures, right? And what I love what you did was you kept at it, right? Because somebody could be like, there's some people that just becomes complacent, and they're like, you know what, man, like, I gotta feed my kid, man. I'm just gonna do this job, and they kind of forgive their dreams. But you adjusted, right? And that's great. And what it did was, it was a domino effect, right? You went to LA. So you come from Cleveland, Ohio. You go to LA with the intent of being a model and act, but the speaking thing was the consistent. I like to say the consistent path, and that led to, like you said, the introduction from poetry to the public speaking. Now, fill in this gap for me and walk us through this. You said that you was introduced to to the Toastmasters in 2010. 2018, you won it, right? So, in terms of preparation or whatever, walk us through that process, that 8-year process.
Well, initially, I had no idea about the competition. I had heard it in passing because, I mean, Toastmasters is such a huge organization. It's in about 140 countries with about 350,000 clubs worldwide. So it's this huge organization. And then when you join at such a small level that you can't really see how big it is until you continue to grow and continue to expand. So I was a part of this really small club in Hawthorne, California. And I remember the president of our club mentioning it a few times, like, oh, you could be the world champion of public speaking. But at that point, it sounded so far-fetched. I was like, meh, okay. And every year and every couple of months, Toastmasters has these, that they have speech contests. They have humorous contests. They have an impromptu speaking contest. They have evaluation contests, all type of contests. But the only contest that you can be the world champion of is the international speech contest. And so 2010, I'm in this club, and then I moved back to my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, and I joined another club. And that's when I started to get interested in competing and speaking competitively, because I'm like, look, I already know I'm good at it. I already know I love it, but I have to prove to myself that I'm really, really good by competing against other great speakers. So I tried in 2015 to be the world champion, and I made it very far from my first time competing. It's levels. It's the club level, the area level, the division level, the district level, the semifinals, and then the finals. So I made it to the district level, which is one step before semifinals, but I lost. And then I tried again in 2016, and I didn't even make it outside of the club level. So once I took a step back, I took about a year off, and then I ended up moving to Houston. And then once I got to Houston, I kind of put the pieces together. I realigned my focus, and I realized what the problem was in 2015 and 2016. The problem in 2015 and 2016 was I was an arrogant little person. I was just extremely arrogant. My ego. It was my ego. I just knew that I was the biggest, the baddest, and the best speaker in the world. You couldn't tell me anything. I knew 2015, that was my year. I was literally telling people, I'm the world champion public speaking. Like, I was literally going and telling people that in 2015. And then I kind of did the same thing in 2016. And in 2018, I said, you know what? I'm going to change my whole mindset. Okay, it's not about the trophy. It's not about me. It's about the people who are listening to me. It's about the message that I can give. It's about learning, growing, and having fun. And that year, it just flowed. I didn't have to do anything except show up. And it was just like, okay, once you change your mindset, here, it's laid out for you. Just show up.
And exactly, and it's like you reevaluated yourself, right? Because you not only did you assess it, you said, okay, 2015, 2016, like this didn't work. And I think this is what a lot of people, they tend to struggle with, and they tend to struggle with, acknowledging what their flaws are, right? And like correcting it, right? Because I think we can be, or some people can be narcissists at the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think there's a fine line between having confidence and being a narcissist, right? And you can have that confidence and you could be great. But if you haven't done anything, or you haven't earned anything, and people aren't right and gravitating towards it, you almost like your own biggest enemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was great that you were able to do it. Now, in terms of the speeches, like what kind of speeches prior to, and we're going to really get into 2018, but prior to 2018, so 2015, 2016, and I would say a little bit, let's do 2016 to 2018. What were some of your topics that and discussion points that you were going over that set you up for this huge accomplishment that came in 2018?
As far as speech topics that I was delivering,
Yes.
well, I definitely always consider myself inspirational, motivational. And that's kind of like a blanket statement, because that can cover so many topics. But really, I always like to focus on empowering oneself. So I'm not really a technical, strategical speaker. Like, I don't like teaching people how to speak. I don't really like coaching people and telling them what they should say and how they should say it. I really like for people to, like you said, do that work on the inside of you, because once you conquer yourself, the world is at your feet. Once you defeat this right here, and you figure out how to love all of this, no matter what you've done, no matter what you look like, that's where I feel like the freedom comes. And a lot of us don't like ourselves. And a lot of us have a lot of issues with ourselves. And that's a reflection of how we treat other people and a reflection of the relationships. So majority of my speeches are always, how can I uplift this crowd, this audience? How can I give them empowerment, encouragement, inspiration in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's a commencement speech where I'm telling them how they can rise up just like I did, or if it's a women's empowerment conference where I'm telling them that, you know, being a mom and being a wife, the most beautiful things in the world, but if you can't be the best version of yourself, you're not going to be able to level up in those areas. Definitely the inspiration and motivational topics. And my speech, Still Standing, was just a revamp of a speech of the same speech that I gave in 2015. But the difference in 2015 and 2018 is, in 2015, it was about me. It was about all the stuff that I was going through. And it was kind of like a therapy session instead of me being a speaker here to add value to these people who are here. So in 2018, I added that value. I took away a lot of me, and I put my focus on what the audience needed.
I love that. And then, you know, again, as you guys are listening to this as well too, and thank you for giving us a breakdown of, you know, just what your lane was, right? And your talking points. I think the biggest takeaway I get from that discussion is living in your truth, right?
Mm.
Like acknowledging, like I think a lot of times as well too, and you know, whether we grow up in a physical or a mentally abusive relationship or home, the abuser tends to be someone that's hurt themselves, right? And they project that on us. And a lot of times we go through life carrying that baggage and saying, you know, well, what did I do to make that person so angry? Or like, what did I do, you know, to be put in this situation? And it's not really you. That's them projecting whatever trauma that they had, and putting it on you. And I like what you said here, just in terms of empowerment, right? Like, you know, listening to somebody and having someone, whether they're telling you your own story or telling you ways that you can empower yourself, is really, really fulfilling. So, you know, that's really a great breakdown, and thank you for that. So now we get to 2018. Here we go. Now it's the championship, and you know, you're there, and and you got this great speech, Still Standing. Prior to them announcing and you finding out you're the champion, you know, you noted that, you know, 2015, 2016, you were cocky. You know, you called yourself the world champion. In 2018, did you know you had it in the bag before, or like, was it that same cockiness you had 3 years prior, or you was like a bit humbled but confidence? Like, what prior to them announcing it, where were you at in your headspace?
I was in such a beautiful space, and I love how you put that. I love it. I was in a beautiful space. I was really just there to enjoy myself. I was really just there to learn, grow, and have fun. I didn't sweat it. I didn't think too much about it. I mean, of course, it's a competition, so if you win, that would be great. But I was just really grateful. My mentality, my attitude was just gratefulness. Like, every single year since the competition started, about 30,000 people hope and pray to even get on that final stage. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. And to see these dynamic speakers on stage, I was really a fan. When I was sitting there watching these speeches, you could see just the precision and the professionalism. And I was in awe. I was a fan. Excuse me. I was sitting there as a fan. I was so enthralled and I was so enraptured in these speeches that I forgot I was competing at one moment. Somebody had to tap me and say, you're next. I said, I am? Oh, right. I am. Okay. I'm a part of this. All right. You know, I was just caught up in the moment. So I had no idea. And some of my wiser friends, they were like, you this year you got it. Like my sister, she's one of my biggest fans and one of my best friends, and I'm her biggest fan as well. But she was like, you're gonna be the champion this year. Like, you got it. And my cousin, who was in Chicago with me during the whole process, the whole weekend, he was like, cuz, you got it, I'm telling you. I'm like, phooey, I'm just gonna go and show up, you know. Like, the day of, I was, you know, just listening to J Rock win. Win,
Yeah,
win,
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 win.
win. That's right.
So I mean, just getting myself in like a playful mind state, and of course preparing, and of course being ready. But no, I had no idea I was going to be the champion. I had no idea, no inkling, and honestly, I had no craving for it. And that was the thing. I wasn't desperate for it. I wasn't so thirsty to have this tangible piece of whatever the material is made out of. I was just happy to be there.
Isn't that funny though? And I don't know if David Goggins, when I was listening to his audio book, Can't Stop Me, you as you described the space that you were in, I think I don't know how to describe this in terms of life, but it's like I feel like the things we pursue at the time the most and passionate the want the most, it's harder to get. But then when we just calm down and we don't
Mm,
care and we're like whatever, then it starts to grow, right? And what it sounds like in terms of your transition was, at this point, right, it's already 2018. You already have 8 years in with Toastmaster. You already, it's 3 years prior to the last time, when you competed, and you didn't make it. And now you're just like, look, I've been here before. I'm just here to have a good time. I'm here to be a spectator. Oh snap, I won. Right? Like that is amazing. So I love that, man. And like that's just a testament to like just what I get from that, and what I get out of that whole process is you just kept with it, right? You could have easily quit in
yeah.
2015. You could have easily quit in 2016. And we have, in terms of our passions, our dream, we just have a tendency to just stop doing what we love to do. And I think that that was amazing. And in terms of you winning it, I think that that was your reward to all the hard work that you put in, man, the move in, right? Like you had to uproot your life. You had to take class. I'm pretty sure financially, you took a hit. And to see that come full circle, it's very deserving. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I want to get into, right, everything that happened after it. So,
Whew,
the most exciting part, right? Like the most exciting part, and I don't all I know from Ohio, other than yourself, growing up in Cleveland, I know there's impoverished parts, and of course we all know LeBron. He grew up in Akron. And coming from a place in I've come from those impoverished communities as well. As a young black woman, you coming from those impoverished areas of Cleveland, Ohio, to now going to these places like Dubai and Qatar, like, describe to me, like, how did you feel, like, you know what I mean, like in terms of the journey.
I think that's probably very, very difficult to explain. And I want to address something else in regards to this, because some people are, especially people who want to be speakers, some people are going to be hearing this and they're going to be like, oh, she went here, she went there. And maybe not even a sense of envy or anything like that. But when we want to, when people are living the lives that we want to live, it stings a little bit. You know, sometimes I drive around the neighborhoods and I'm like, damn, why can't I have an 8 bedroom mansion? I'm not, no shade towards that person, but you have that strong desire and you're on the path, but it's just not happening yet. So I don't want anyone to feel some type of way about the opportunities that I've been given, because like you said, some of the things that you don't see are the things that really make you a champion. So I feel like some of the experiences that I've had in my life, it equipped me to be able to go anywhere in the world and to be able to hold my own, and understanding who I am as a person, and not being held down and distracted by things that like racism, or people looking down on other people because of their religion, or not being open-minded and willing to try new things. And so me being molded into this person, I feel like that's why in 2018 I was put in this position, because the people who I spoke to, they needed someone like me. So all of the fire and the hardships and the challenges and even the good times that I went through prepared me to be able to travel to all these different countries. And so when I went, I was just ready. I was ready to go to all these different countries, and I was ready to explore, and I was ready to immerse myself in the culture, and I was ready to give back, and I was ready to teach. It's not time for you to be the diva or the extremely uptight superstar. It's a time for you to meet with these people. It's a time for you to give, especially for women, give women another great example to look up to. It's a time for you to get all this experience so that when you come back to the States and you speak to little girls who look like you, it's going to empower them. And so I feel like it was way bigger than me, and that's why I was able to easily go to 14 countries in, less than 9 months, and click with the people. I didn't have any conflicts, any issues. Everything was smooth, everything flowed. I was dressing in the traditional clothing, and when I went to India, I had the henna, and I had I believe it's a bindi, and I was wrapped in sari. When I was in Kuwait, they put me in the thobe, and just exploring and really caring about humanity. The majority of the countries that I visited were Muslim countries, and I've never took the steps to become a Muslim woman, but being able to respect that. And some people can't get past that religious barrier, or some people have so many negative images about what goes on in the Middle East that they would go and say, I don't want to go there, or I don't feel comfortable. So it's hard for me to put it into words. I just feel like a lot of the experiences I had in my life made me ready, and me doing the work within myself made me ready as well, because I was open-minded. I wanted to fully immerse myself in the culture, and I knew that it was bigger than me just saying I'm going to all these places. It's not just what you're doing, it's what happens once you get these experiences. What are you going to do with them? Well, how are you going to share your gifts?
Absolutely. No, and that was a great breakdown in terms of the question that I asked, and you giving your experience to that, right? Because um me personally, I wouldn't change it any other way in terms of hardship, right? I think a lot of times when we reflect, um, and I don't know if it's a superficial thing, but sometimes people are envious of people, like, and you touched on this earlier, of what other people has. But I'm kind of glad that I didn't, and I don't know if you feel this way as well, but I'm kind of glad I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, right? You needed, like you said, everything you went through, the struggles, the poverty, the sacrifices that you had to make, that molded you and made you the stronger woman that you are today, right? So that when you traveled and you delivered your message, you could distribute these gifts, right? And people can relate to you more. I know for a fact, I can relate to somebody who's been through what I've been through, rather than someone who's been coddled and really, hasn't really been through much in life. So that honestly was a great breakdown in terms of that. As you touched on that, there was one thing that really popped up in my mind, and I'm curious, and I'm pretty sure my listeners will be curious about this as well. In terms of audience feedback, what did you notice from your experience? The biggest difference in the States than when you were delivering your message abroad?
The love, the eagerness to learn, the attentiveness, and the respect of this title. In the States, it's like, oh, that's cute. Okay. You Toastmasters, what's that? But internationally, Toastmasters is more revered, because if someone from a different country outside the United States becomes a world champion, it changes their life. It changes the life of their families. People involved in Toastmasters, they get to, because you have to know English to be able to compete. So you're learning a new language, and learning a new language can open up so many more job opportunities. You can get your family the way you want to get them together. So people really respect the title. I'm telling you, if you look at my Instagram, I was treated like Beyonce. I kid you not. I was treated like Beyonce when I went to these different countries. I mean, red carpet rolled out. I mean, gifts of gold and diamonds and it just, I mean, the works. I mean, greeted by school marching bands, and my banner at the airport, like in the newspapers, on the talk shows in the morning, like it was real. And then when I got back to the States, it would bother me so much. it would bother me so much because it was such a historical year. Like you mentioned, I'm only the second African-American woman to ever do it, and the only living African-American woman, because the first one, LaShonda Rundle, she passed away, unfortunately, in 2012 from lupus. Then it was the first year 3 women ever took first, second, and third place ever. Like, and I'm only the 5th woman to ever do it. Like, even still, this year's world champion 2019, he's a man,
The black
Aaron
gentleman.
Beverly.
Yes,
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Aaron Beverly, beautiful person. Not taking anything from him, but I'm still only the 5th woman to ever do it. And so in the States, I would have thought that would have got more attention. And I'm not saying I don't appreciate, being in Forbes and Business Insider, and shout out to 97.9 The Box for having me on when the Mad Hatter Morning Show was on there, because that's major, and it opened a lot of other doors. But I thought that I wish it would have got the same love and reverence and respect that it did overseas. I mean, even the students were just so attentive. And I come over here and the young people are looking at me like, you ain't Cardi B.
And my question, I guess, would kind of be like, why is that, right? Because you're like, not only that doesn't only happen in public speaking. So I'll give you 2 more examples. And I've spoken to, I covered music for a while in my life, and a lot of it, is the younger generation likes to call them old school rappers, and when they say old school, they're talking 90s, like the stuff we grew up on. They get more love overseas than they do here. And then I'm going to give you another example in terms of sports. You have Stephon Marbury, and there's a great documentary, guys, if you want to listen to watch it on Netflix. He was really almost outcasted out the NBA. He goes to China. They embrace him. They build him a statue there. And, the overwhelming amount of love that he got in China was crazy. And, back home, he's just another almost forgotten about. But why do you think we don't embrace us and embrace these accomplishments on a domestic level?
Well, the United States is like the popular kid in school. Whatever is trending, that's what she's rocking. Whatever is cool and hip at the time, that's what she's into. We really see a lot of things on a surface, shallow level at times. And so things like public speaking, what is that? How is that fun? How is that trendy? How is that hip? How can I it's just not trendy. It's not cool. Plus, it's still the biggest fear in the world. It's still a fear, but it's not something that's really glamorous. I mean, Tony Robbins makes it look fun, and Iyanla Vanzant makes it look fun, but it's not something that's cool. So, and as far as, not even trying to get too deep into it, but when you're dealing with a community of people who are just now understanding that their lives matter, when they see someone who looks like something that they don't like when they see in the mirror, why would I embrace that? So I don't know. I just feel like America is just a different type of place, and we just have different things that we like, and it's a different culture, and I'm okay with that. But once America does catch on in 2023, when I've already been the world champion for 5 years, that's when America will get hip. That's when it'll happen.
Absolutely. And again, there's nothing wrong with the personally, I don't want it to be a jab. There's nothing wrong with the Cardi B's and the Megan. All women have different ways of expressing themselves. However, this is the problem. The problem is there's not enough of you, right? There's not enough of the public speakers, the women in Congress, the women that, the in different elements. When we see too much of the artist side, and there's nothing wrong with women. I'm all for women expressing themselves however they want to do it, whether it's sexually, whether it's intellectually, whatever. But when we get too much of it, what kind of examples do we have for our young girls, right? I know growing up, and a lot of these young men growing up, they only know 2 types of guys that they want to be like, and it's either an athlete or a drug dealer, because that's the flashy money. But you can be a doctor, you can be a therapist. There's so many ways. So Ramona is a shining example of someone that came from, these roots and these humble roots, and made something of herself. And, if you're a young lady listening to this, there's definitely options for you out there. So, I definitely check out the YouTube of I'm Still Standing, her speech, which was an amazing speech. And it, she did the little boxing thing, and I was watching it on the YouTube. My favorite photos in the back of Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston. It's really a good testament to that. I want to talk to you in terms of being a mother, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of women right now listening to this. And I think doing what you did, juggling, being a mother, right, taking that job, just taking a minimum wage job and things like that. If you could give any advice to any women that has these major aspirations, a dream, how did you get through that, and what advice would you give them to get through it, the struggles?
Well, for me, I had a tremendous support system. His father and I are not married, but my son has been living with his father for almost 2 years because I was traveling so much, and I'm working on my executive MBA. So he lives in Ohio with his father while I'm in Houston, and he loves it. So we just have a beautiful situation and a beautiful relationship as co-parents, because now he has a new family. So my son is a big brother now, and they're happy and they're healthy, and they're best friends and they love each other. So it's not like, all right, go stay with your daddy, and your daddy living in some 1-bedroom apartment, and it's nasty and in a bad neighborhood. Now his father is an educator and a coach, and his fiance is a teacher as well. So they have a beautiful situation. But my support system was just so strong. When my son was young and I first started going back to college, I had my godparents to help me. And then when I finally got my undergrad degree and I moved to Houston, my sister and her husband, they took us in until I got on my feet. And, I have my mom, and I have aunts and cousins and god brothers and god sisters who, when I need someone to watch my son, or when I need, help with something or assistance, it was definitely the support system. I could not have done it on my own. I was able to not have to work when my son was young because I was living with my godparents. We were living with my godparents, and she was like, you don't have to work, go to school, get your education. And so I didn't have to worry about that. So build a tribe, because it's going to be very hard to do it on your own. Not saying that you can't. My mom did it by herself with 2 kids. So I'm not saying that you can't, but it makes it so much easier, and it takes so much stress off of you when you don't have to do everything by yourself. So find some friends, reconnect with family, establish those bonds with your family members. Really just try to build that team and have that foundation, so that you don't have to fall on your face by yourself if you fail. You have a safety net. You have people that you can talk to come to your rescue, a mentor, a coach. For me, it was all about the support system.
Definitely. And that's good. That's a good takeaway, just to hear that, right? Like, I know a lot of times, you probably feel defeated in life. And I'm going to say something that when I first heard it, it just clicked with me, but expect life to kick your ass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just it's like, you can't, I guess I had to learn this later in life, but life isn't, I think if life continues to be great and nothing's wrong or whatever, there's something wrong there, right? And what I think the biggest testament of strength is how to manage it. And like you said, if you have that tribe and you have that support system, to either be with someone, to have people around you that's going to help you, that's great. And I'm going to tell you this: if you don't have people that are supporting you, and you're in a toxic relationship, then you have to remove yourself from that equation. I think a lot of us can agree that if we're in a situation that's toxic, then we kind of have to eliminate those people in order to have growth, right? And have progress. So thank you for that. It's good to hear that. Listening to your journey, honestly, has been really, really inspirational. Just in terms of just seeing your maturity and your growth. And again, I encourage everyone to who's listening to this program to check her out. And as we get into the final stage of this interview, what I'd like to ask you is, in terms of your public speaking, how does that work? If anyone's listening to it, whether it's a business, a corporation, or maybe an inner city that they may want to hire you to come in and speak to them, how would they go about that?
You can just contact me via email at contactramonajsmith@gmail.com. Also on Instagram, Ramona J. Smith 1, and Facebook, Ramona J. Smith. Just send me an email or a direct message. And, right now everything is on Zoom, so I have no problem doing conferences via Zoom, speaking to kids via Zoom. I have no problem with doing the online platforms. What is it? Microsoft Teams. And I
Michael,
think
yeah.
Google has one too now.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. Yeah, I actually gave a great speech at the Cypher Houston Chamber of Commerce, and it was really like my first formal speech, aside from my coaching and doing some one-on-ones with my students. But it was the same vibe. I mean, of course, it's not exactly the same because we're not face to face and we can't shake hands afterwards, but you still get the message and you still get the feeling and you still get that energy even though it's virtual.
Awesome. And I can't have you leave here without some a nice, good, really personal message. And what I mean by that is, right now, I count my blessings, right? Like with the whole, I kind of feel bad because with the whole COVID going on, I have this great platform. But by far, I am not. I'm doing well. There's a lot of people out right now that's unemployed, right? There's a lot of people out there right now that's facing eviction. There's a lot of people out there right now that don't have a steady paycheck, that don't know how they're going to pay the next bill, right? They don't know how to get something to eat. If there's anybody listening to this, man, and they're really struggling during this period, what's a message that you got for them that can help motivate them or uplift them?
In times like this, we often forget how many challenges we've already overcome. As you said, life will be brutal at times. And when the good times are so good and everything is going smooth, and then boom, you hit a brick wall, that's your focus. So in these moments, think about all of the challenges and the obstacles that you've overcome previously. This is not going to last forever. Everything always works out. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now where you are. You wouldn't be alive. You wouldn't be listening well. You would have been gone a long time ago. Whatever you went through previously would have destroyed you. So what happened in those situations that helped you make it through? What happened back then when you lost that job or when you didn't have enough money to pay your bills through the clouds? This is just a storm. This is just a storm. You have to hold on. And once you get to the other side, because you'll be able to look back on this too and say, hey, I made it. So right now, I want you to focus on those one or two situations where it was very difficult for you, but somehow you overcame. And also, I want you to not be afraid to ask for help. In these times, we all are facing a period of abnormal lifestyles. So don't be afraid to ask for assistance. Don't be afraid to ask your neighbors for help. Don't be afraid to, if you need to go to that food pantry, swallow your pride and go to that food pantry. Don't be in the house starving and the kids hungry. If you need some rental assistance from your church, don't be afraid to ask for help. So in these times, remember your strength. Remember what you came from. Remember what you came through. And do not be afraid to ask for assistance. And do not be afraid to ask for help.
Amen. I'm beginning to wonder is Pastor Smith in your future as well. Listen, because that was the gospel right there. Let me tell you, that was amazing. Ramona, thank you so much. Like you honestly, just thank you for your time and just taking time. I'm pretty sure you're a busy woman, but taking time out your day to speak to my listeners. And I know we have a pre-existing relationship, so I'm grateful for you taking the time to speak to them. You gave us your background. You also gave us pretty much, what you've been through since becoming the international 2018 international Toastmaster champion. So, thank you for that. And if there's anybody, especially that message at the end, that was really, really on point. So if there's anybody listening to that, just again, man, just you can get through this. I wanted to have her on here to serve as a source of motivation and inspiration as well. So again, Ramona, thank you for that. We're going to have all her information for you guys. And again, if you're looking at it on our YouTube channel, it'll be all across the screen. So make sure you hit her up if you would like to have her for a speaking engagement. And like she said, she is available via Zoom. So, you know, make sure you can arrange something for that. And again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate that. As you know, every Friday we are debuting a new episode with someone within the health and wellness industry, or having someone who has an amazing story. If you'd like to be on our show, or you would just like to give us feedback, just hit us up at fithealthwell@gmail.com. In addition to that, to learn about our mission and everything we're involved in, or the work that we've done, you go to fithealthwell.com. And if you'd like to follow us on our socials, you can go to Instagram at fithealthwell, and then also on our Facebook, fithealthwell, and then Twitter, fithealthwellca. Again, I am grateful for Ramona being a guest today, and I'm also grateful for you guys as a listener. I love the fact that you guys tune in, and the engagement has really, really been special. So thank you for that. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe. And until our next episode, I'll see you guys later. Love you. Have a great day.